Welcome to this tutorial for the Designs F-18 for MSFS. The airplane is an improved conversion of the default acceleration F-18 from Flight Simulator X. This tutorial is from a runway start with engines on, so let's go. First we'll set up some systems. There's nothing too complex here because most of this is based on default systems. So first of all we'll just switch the right MFD over to HSI. Then we'll hit sequence and our plan from the world map will feed through to the airplane. Heading over to the ILS page, we can see that our destination ILS is automatically tuned from our flight plan. And on the Autopilot page, we don't need to do anything until we're in the air. So, park and brake off and full throttle. When you apply full throttle in this airplane, the afterburners will light. As you rotate, as usual, gear up at positive rate. You can also set the flaps to 0. Now you want to throttle down fairly soon after you take off so that your speed doesn't run away. Throttling down a bit will just switch off the afterburners and maintain a reasonable speed. We'll now activate some autopilot mode, so you turn the master on, followed by attitude hold, and then couple. Attitude hold will maintain the climb pitch you had, and couple will make sure the plane follows your flight plan. When you reach an altitude you're happy with as your cruise altitude, just activate the barometric altitude hold mode on the panel in front of you and the plane will clumsily level off. As you level off at cruising altitude, you can apply full throttle, light the afterburners again and start your supersonic cruise here. Before you know it, you'll be through the sound barrier and travelling at Mach 1. En route you can check that all is well, the plane is following your flight plan on the MFD at the bottom centre of the panel, and you can also zoom in and out on that map. The plane will eventually settle at a cruise speed of around Mach 1.65. It will wander on the line left and right a little bit, but it's ultimately fairly stable, so you can leave it alone. Descent can be either directed by ATC or kind of eyeballed or figured out for yourself, so just switch the autopilot off, pitch the nose down, idle the throttle. Then when you're at a pitch you're happy with, re-enable autopilot master and attitude hold again, and the plane will continue to descend. As you continue to descend and decelerate, as you pass through about 180-190 knots, you can extend full flaps and also drop the landing gear. When you reach a bottom of descent you're happy with, which is usually 2,000 feet above the elevation of your runway, just activate barometric altitude hold again and the airplane will level off. If you've assigned an approach in the world map, the plane will have no issues following this. There is one key you want to assign in order to use the ILS, so that's toggle GPS drives nav 1. This allows you to switch between GPS and radio as your nav source. So before you turn on to final, use that hotkey to change your nav source to radio. The airplane should now turn to follow the localizer. There doesn't seem to be any vertical guidance in the airplane's ILS mode, so when you want to make your final approach, just disable the autopilot and fly the plane. I try to keep the velocity vector, which is the circle you can see on the HUD there above the touchdown zone of the runway. Just manage the throttle on your way down to maintain airspeed. When you reach the threshold, just idle the throttle and start to flare the airplane for a landing. Apply the brakes upon touchdown, and that concludes your successful flight. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please drop a like, feel free to subscribe, all that good stuff, and after the outro there's a few extra bits you might want to know. Ah, you're still here. Okay, cool. So let's talk about heading mode. Now, I didn't do this in the main flight, so I'm just going to show you how to do it here. With autopilot active, you want to dial in your desired heading using the toggle in the bottom left corner. This will move a square on the HSI on the right MFD. When you're happy with your selected heading, activate head and select mode and the plane will turn to follow it. The plane will go wings level once it reaches that heading, and it will continue to follow any headings you dial in using that toggle. You can disable heading select mode if you just want to remain wings level for now. And to reactivate heading mode, just follow the steps you saw. Let's quickly run through a cold and dark start. So batteries on and ground power on if it's available at your airport. And APU on. Once the APU light illuminates, the APU is ready. You can now crank the engine starter. I crank the right engine first. I'm not sure if this is realistic, but it works. And using the panel on the bottom left there of the glare shield, you can monitor the engine start. When engine RPM reaches 60%, you've got a good start on that engine, so you can now flick over to the other one. And again, once the engine RPM reaches 60, you've got 2 good starts. With 2 good starts, you can switch off the APU, you can switch off the ground power, and that's all there is to it. We'll quickly look at some ancillary controls. So your anti-ice and pitot heat are to the right of the pilot's knee, and windshield anti-ice is a little further to the right on the same panel. The wing fold toggle can be found on the bottom right of the main panel, and that works fully as it should do. And the tail hook is just above the wing fold button. Again, that's completely working and can be used for carrier landings. Happy flying everybody, and I hope you found this useful.